Hey everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Theory. So it's time to cover what we've been waiting for in the X-Men 97 Tolerance is Extinction Part 1, which is episode 8 of the series. And if you didn't know, there's a 3-part finale, Tolerance is Extinction Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So this is Part 1, so we have 2 more episodes, and it is really, I don't want to say kicking off, but it is really going hard right now. And I don't know how they could do it every week, but the episodes just get better and better. I can't wait to see what they have in store. And this episode might have been one of my favorites, and I probably say this every week that it's one of my favorites, but it just gets better and better, like I said. But let's go through the episode, theorize, look at Easter eggs, and break down what we saw in X-Men 97's Tolerance is Extinction Part 1. There's a lot of cameos and deeper meanings to this, so let's get into it. In the intro, we see Professor X is added back for the first time in the X-Men 97 show. As we know, he was taken off, and usually they take off people who aren't in the episodes or in the show, like Storm for a little bit and Gambit for now, as well as Magneto now on top of the asteroid M, just showcasing how big his powers, and it will kind of show how big his powers will play in this episode. It starts with Cable target practicing on beer bottles that are probably left from Wolverine and maybe more. We learn Bishop and Baby Nathan got separated in the time stream and Cable was on his own for a little bit. Bishop is not here, so there's still a chance he does show up, but I don't see him showing up in the rest of the show because showrunner Bo DeMeo said that time travel will not get him out of this, so it's safe to say there is no Bishop for the rest of the show, which kind of sucks, but maybe we'll see him in the next season because it is, I think, confirmed or at least rumored that there's another season already in development. Cyclops says he's never thought to ask the professor how he did what he did so well, and that was to be a father. And it just shows how much Professor X means to all of them, especially Cyclops, and how much they need him, kind of foreshadowing his return later in the episode. So we learn from the team meeting with Cable exactly what, who, and why is Bastion, and that basically the Sentinels were obvious, and he has a greater plan with the virus Sinister infects Cable with as a baby earlier in the season. We saw this previews in the last episode with Bolivar Trask turning into the human Sentinel, the first that we've seen in the show. Cyclops and Jean look at each other, almost taking blame for what happened to the future and to these people with the virus, especially Baby Nathan. We see Bastion's evolution from Nimrod, a middle step, to now his current human form, kind of like the human evolution in a way. A cool catch by people is in this diagram we see what looks to be the sacred timeline with branches off timelines similar to what we see in Loki and Endgame. So on the timeline, a few things to point out. At the top left at the beginning, we see an X in the circle with what looks to be Magneto's helmet, and I'm not sure what the other one is in the middle, perhaps Professor X's head, but the helmet for sure. On the bottom side, it looks to be a mask that I'm not exactly sure who it is. Let me know down below what you think it could be. Next over looks to be some type of animal paws or claws, could be Wolverine, or it could be, in my opinion, Sabretooth, but I don't know how he would fit in really here, but take that with a grain of salt. Bastion's war takes place over 300 years into the future, Cable says. Another dystopia where Logan is last to die, Morph says, which is funny because Wolverine is pretty much immortal, and like Morph poking fun at it is just a direct reference to the episodes of the Days of Future Past in Season 1 where all of them died except Wolverine. Cable shows them a future of Bastion's utopia for human Sentinels. It looks to be this great looking place with notable features, but we cut to human Sentinels watching mutants working in a conveyor belt, which are the same mutants that helped Wolverine in the Days of Future Past episodes, so 2 references to that episode in a matter of minutes. We see Polaris sending green waves over the planet, which is almost foreshadowing what Magneto does later in the episode. We see the Golden Gate Bridge, which plays a huge part in the X-Men Last Stand movie when they took on Magneto and his mutants, but we also see him being worked on by none other than Rachel Summers, who is Jean and Scott's daughter, or technically Cable's half-sister in the Days of Future Past episodes, so yet another Days of Future Past reference. Every time Cable tries to stop the attack on Genosha, he is temporally removed from the event, which we saw in the episode that featured the attack on Genosha when he meets his mother, Madeline. Beast says Strange, the mystics of Kamartaj speak of absolute points. There's a little bit to break down here. People are speculating that this is referring to Doctor Strange because he says Strange, because Strange has appeared in the show and they have met, so it's not far off to say maybe Beast and Strange have had maybe some deep conversations about this and Beast knows a little more than we think. The TV interrupts their meeting with the reveal that Professor X is alive and that the X-Men were keeping it a secret. I love this little detail that says on the screen, exposed, which is a play on the X-Men and the word expose. It's a cool little thing that they point in here, and it just feels like it gives the show more depth, and like they really care about the show with just little things like that. Maybe I'm just reaching here, but I love little stuff like that. This comes from Bastion releasing it after hinting that he would last episode, where we see that he hijacked the satellite that had the footage of Professor X. Guy Rick is also brought up, painting him in a better light now on the newscast. Wolverine has enough and uses his claws to destroy the TV, cutting the broadcast. Jubilee and Roberto sit with his mother, and on the TV, William Stryker is on talking about the possibility of an alien invasion because of Professor X and his ties to them. Stryker may be a familiar name to you, and if you remember from Wolverine Origins and X2, he was kind of the creator of this Wolverine, but it doesn't look like that they're going to be using that storyline in any way. Just a cool little nod. Jubilee storms out with Roberto saying they need some shopping therapy and brings up Roberto's trust fund, which is hilarious, but will ultimately lead to their capture at the end of the episode. Over to Rogue, who's still fighting her wounds. Jean and Nightcrawler comfort her, and Nightcrawler drops a ton of wisdom on Jean Grey, saying, what does it matter, memories, as long as you could feel them too, and how blood is blood, but family is a choice. He brings up how his mother is Mystique and she abandoned him, while after he met Rogue, instead of hating each other or being strangers, they embraced each other, which is back when Mystique was the mother, but in the new comics, the new kind of lore, they're going with the idea that Mystique is actually Nightcrawler's father, but this seems to stay true to the older lore in this show. Val Cooper talking to Sinister, where Sinister reveals he has his own motives and is simply using Bastion. Magneto is up on the wall pretty much naked, but might I add, ripped, and is in the shape of an X, which is similar to Uncanny X-Men issue number 251, where Wolverine is seen similar in this way. Val tries to talk to Magneto, but he doesn't say anything and hasn't since the attack of Genosha. And the show highlights his tattoo from Auschwitz, 214782, the same tattoo that we've seen in the X-Men movies. Trish Tilby brings Beast coffee from Kate's Coffee, which is a known coffee shop in the comics for the Marvel Universe, and then talk where she says no cameras this time, even though what they're doing would be a great story for TV. We see Jean, Grey, Cable, and Scott all go to Bastion's old neighborhood, and we see a bike where Jean Grey fills in the tire, but under it says the word zero, which could be an early signs of Operation Zero Tolerance. Inside the home, we see a box with a magazine that says Stark Expo, and then a toy that looks like a Sentinel, as well as a calculator and a truck, and a picture of a young Bastion, and something that says X-M52. Cable looks upon a photo, and his parents, who people have speculated appeared all the way back in season 4, as she was the waitress for the X-Men who snitched on them, the episode One Man's Worth, as well as the dad being the guy in the leather jacket in the same spot. So did they just pick random characters from the old show, or is this a coincidence? Or is this been a storyline that's been in place since the 90s and they're just revisiting it now? We see Nimrod infecting Bastion's father, and then see Nimrod kind of faded into the scene, just like how we saw in the last episode with Rogue when she had a vision of Nimrod in the same way, kind of like the opacity was a little bit down on this. Another crazy thing, Jean finds Bastion's drawing as a kid of the school on fire, which will kind of reference later on in the episode, but we saw in Jean's vision a kid coloring, who we just found out in the last episode and from Bo DeMayo's Twitter, that Bastion as a child has been in that episode coloring that drawing, but also has been in the season the whole time. So basically Nimrod got defeated by the X-Men, but was able to infect this couple who gave birth to the first kind of human Sentinel, who is Sebastian or Bastion. And here's where we get a few reveals that could lead to something greater perhaps. Bastion speaks with some villains, but reveals he was responsible for the attack on Genosha. We see Doctor Doom and Zemo in their traditional uniforms, Zemo in his traditional purple mask, and people have speculated Doom looks like the Doom from the Fantastic Four animated series, and Zemo looks like the Zemo from the Avengers animated series. So are these all going to be crossovers? Maybe it's a possibility that they all show up. Judging by later in the episode, I can't rule it out, but the other people on the screen that we see are just world leaders. It's confirmed by that. Genosha was just a time management, not meant to make a statement of anything, but to just buy time and stop them from evolving a little more. Bastion says how a mutant could take the strength of 10 humans and how taxi drivers are endangered if teleportation is around. He says that they go through the process and wake up without memory of this happening, the people that kind of sign up for this. But here's my question. Do they sign up for this willingly? Do they get tricked into it? Or does he just kidnap kidnap people to do it. Like, they don't really explain that. So I think the context here kind of matters. Bastion's mother shows a drawing of this that is just, might I add, sinister. A multi-faced master mold and human sentinels ruling over mutants with a fire surrounding them, and calls it the final dream. Out of nowhere, his mother turns into a human sentinel, and I just wonder, was that Nimrod doing it? Or did Bastion turn his mother into that? Did Bastion's mother want this to happen? It's just so many questions. I also have to wonder, where is his dad in all this? I guess the safe assumption is that he just passed away, like, peacefully, but I wonder if he's going to play any role. B sees all the sentinels being awakened, and it's kind of like an Order 66 kind of thing, because, like, they all kind of awaken at the same time, and nothing really triggered it, but I wonder if there's something that did trigger it that we just didn't see on screen yet. Trish also turns into one and attacks Beast as well as the other X-Men. Morph turns into Juggernaut but is no match for Trish. A cool little Easter egg there. While at this point, Roberto's butler turns into one, and we see Jubilee and Roberto separate, being attacked by him. People protesting the school turn into Sentinels, and a few humans don't, which they're just kind of confused at what's going on. Wolverine gets his moment to shine, though, which a lot of people have wanted to see in the show, when he's destroyed suit, calling Trish Tin Woman, which is the same thing he called a robot Sentinel when he first saw them, calling them a Tin Woodsman. Wolverine launched into the sky, plummets downward, but taking out and using his claws as many Prime Sentinels as he can, slicing them in half, decapitating them, removing arms as he goes down, and it's just a sick scene. And that's not all from him. Rogue, who's alone in her room, is being watched by the Prime Sentinels until Logan comes in and says he has 6 reasons why he has to fight them, and then Nightcrawler comes in saying he can add another 3, making it 9, and they fight side by side to rescue her. But kind of freaky, the Sentinels are just impossible to take out because they attach their limbs back on, like an arm and even a head. So seeing that they could attach the limbs back, Nightcrawler starts teleporting them one by one out of their place, and we even see how the teleportation goes on when Wolverine stabs one and Nightcrawler teleports everybody quickly, and just how, like, freaky it is. But, like, Nightcrawler doesn't care because, you know, he's probably done this so many times. Over to the Summers family, Jean takes the mom role, making Cable wear a seatbelt until the jets taking out end up driving out of the jet with a Porsche with a license plate that says SL1M for Slim, otherwise known as Scott's nickname. The Sentinels' plan is to box them into the cave, but the Summers use their powers to stop this, with Scott using his lasers to go through the rocks that are falling through them, and Jean using her telepathy to drive the car, and Cable just using his gun to take out as many Sentinels that are following them as possible. And they make it out, but destroying the Porsche. Roberto reveals to Jubilee he can fly when he saves her from falling, and they crash into the mother's party titled Humans for Genosha, and his mother ends up telling her son to listen to the Sentinels because they're only trying to protect her, but really it's for her to protect her stock because she doesn't want anyone really to know that he is a mutant. Bastion pulls up to the school that's all on fire and gets word from Sinister that Val has let Magneto free, so he goes back and teleports to where, I might have to mention, why did he pull up in the car if he could just teleport? But she gives a quick little monologue saying at the end of it, Magneto was right, and Magneto follows it with his first words since the attack: enough. Magneto goes to the North Pole and puts a worldwide outage, declaring war. In the process, pretty cool, we see the animated Spider-Man noticing what's going on, doing a couple flips and just looking on at what's going on, which is confirmed from the old Spider-Man animated show that it's that Spider-Man. So people are speculating maybe we'll get another Spider-Man animated show that's continuing on. But this isn't the first time there's a Spider-Man-like reference in the show, as we've seen earlier with the newspaper falling from the sky that mentions Spider-Man with Eddie Brock. Even while this is going on, 2 people that I didn't know in the moment, but we see Silver Samurai and Omega Red see what's going on, so they must play some type of role later on. I'm hoping that Spider-Man plays a big role in this. I'm hoping that when they saw Captain America early on, he plays a bigger role in this. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they're just setting these guys up for something bigger. I don't believe they're just going to be cameos. I'm not going to be disappointed if they're just cameos, but I think there's going to be something more. Charles eventually crashes into the mansion when Morph and Wolverine go to investigate. Charles comes out and says, I hope I'm not too late. To me, my X-Men, which has been a theme throughout the show. Scott says it, Magneto says it, and Professor X says it, who's kind of like the rightful leader of the X-Men. And we see him channel Beast, Jean Grey, Storm, and Cyclops with the episode ending. So, I mean, that was the breakdown. There's a lot really to kind of uncover here. Where does this go next? I mean, we have 2 more episodes. It seems like everything's destroyed and the world is turning on the mutants, the X-Men, and with Magneto kind of declaring war with this worldwide outage. What will Professor X think of this? Because they have different ideologies with mutants and humans living amongst each other. What will Magneto think when he sees Charles is alive? Did he know Charles was still alive, or did he just think Charles was dead? It's a lot that's going to probably happen in the next 2 episodes, and I am so excited for this. They're going to be crazy. I wonder if the Avengers are going to come into this with, like I said before, Captain America and Spider-Man being shown. I think they will. And just what other world leaders are part of this. I mean, Zemo and Doctor Doom were part of this, but I wonder if there's any other villains that are taking part in this. There's just so many questions, and of course, will we see Gambit again? But that's been my breakdown of the episode. I had a lot of fun doing this. There's so much more to come. I am so excited. Let me know some theories you have down below for the last 2 episodes, Tolerance is Extinction Part 2 and Part 3. Leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Have an incredible day.